The Evercade, a way to modernly play physical retro games for an affordable pricing? Hey guys, I'm Luke and welcome back to another episode of Triforcedtech, as in this one we're going to be taking a look at the Evercade line of systems. Now this retro handheld is far different than the other retro handhelds I've covered, and the reason for that is these ones you just want to dump a bunch of ROMs and emulators on, and depending on how strong the chip is, you play the games it can play. But this retro handheld is more of an ethical way of playing them, as you have to collect the physical cartridges to play the games, and they are all licensed. So yeah, you are pretty much legitly buying these in a modern way. So instead of having to buy secondhand old retro games, you can buy a re-release of them on the Evercade, which yeah, is super cool as someone who loves to play and collect retro games. And it really reminds me of a modern Game Boy, as you know, the Game Boy was the exact same with collecting cartridges for them. So yeah, let's take a look at this interesting retro handheld. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at two different handhelds that can play the Evercade line of physical cartridges. And this concept is just so nostalgic to me. You know, growing up in a time where I looked through every single video game manual, you know, just because, and having the physical cartridge just felt so much more special. In a day and age where we no longer have manuals, everything is digital. Yeah, this is just a, you know, way to kind of reminisce on simpler times. And that's really the hobby in collecting these, because yeah, again, with, you know, certain retro handhelds, you can just have every and any game on it. You don't have to do this whole rigmarole. But again, this is for the people who just want that nostalgia. So the main model we're going to be looking at, and the one I have, is the Evercade EXP. This is their second iteration on the handheld line of systems, but they do have a home console version that can take 2 cartridges at a time. But of course, I prefer the handheld. I don't really want to play these games on a big screen, though I can with this model, as it does have an HDMI mini out, so you can consoleize this. But they do have a revision of this console that has a different color scheme, and it sadly no longer has the HDMI out, so it's a bit cheaper. But yeah, this is essentially their premium version that I don't believe they sell anymore. But again, you can find the revision, which is the EXP-R, on Amazon for about $110. It's not too bad in pricing, but I'll be honest, this hobby is pretty expensive, because each and every single game, you know, will still run you a couple bucks no matter how much you find it for. You're still going to be spending money on adding games to your collection. Though luckily, this model, and not the revision, the EXP-R, that won't have the pre-installed games that this one came with, because yeah, they licensed Capcom games and had it pre-installed. That's another thing in what made the revision slightly cheaper, because it didn't have the licensed Capcom games pre-installed. But I'll be honest, I didn't buy it for the pre-installed games. The beauty of this is having the cartridges, right? Not having digital games. I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose in collecting this console. But of course, you're not just limited to the EXP and EXP-R. They actually have a different line of handhelds in which, yeah, they can take the cartridges, that being the Super Pocket. And yeah, the name is pretty much implying that it can easily fit in your pocket, which it can. I mean, if you couldn't tell, it's smaller than the palm of my hand, but then again, I have giant hands, so maybe not the best comparison. Anyways, yeah, this is a really cool small form factor version that will let you play every single game on it, which is just super nice. And it also has pre-installed games. Pretty much every single color scheme has, you know, is tied with a company and has licensed games on it. And the reason why I got this one, the Tatio, I can't even pronounce the name. But yeah, this edition, I only bought it because of the color scheme. I really like the black and kind of teal color. It gives me some Tears of the Kingdom vibes. So that's literally the only reason why I bought it, because I don't really care for these pre-installed games. And it doesn't matter, because again, I can just play the already, you know, placed in cartridge. There he goes. I have Duke Nukem, and yeah, I can just play it off of this. So in reality, the pre-installed games really mean nothing to me. Again, I'm mainly collecting them for the cartridges. And while I personally prefer the EXP or EXPR in terms of form factor, I would highly recommend the Super Pocket editions just because they're a lot cheaper and it's a great entry point to get into collecting these cartridges. Because again, you're not compromising in terms of what you can play, it's just more so the way it feels. So jumping back to the EXP model, of course, with it being more expensive, it feels a lot more premium and has a bigger screen. But not only that, it obviously has a better chipset, so it's able to actually have a menu. Unlike this, it really is just navigating your games and nothing else. This has options. It even has a Wi-Fi chip, so you can download updates just through the console, which is really nice. And yeah, it also has themes and just overall some settings in which you can switch your, aspect ratio. You can add some shaders on it, even some bezels, which is really cool, because most of the games you're going to be playing won't be 16:9 or widescreen. They're going to all be square. So not having a square resolution kind of feels weird for a retro console like this, but it gives you access to games that would be widescreen, and yeah, it kind of future-proofs the console, which I do like, especially with the fact that you can add like bezels and other things to, cover up the black borders. They also had a thing where you could actually have free games. Actually, technically, you do have hidden games. I have 9 out of 11, interesting number. But yeah, essentially what you do is you just put in a secret code that you can just find online and you get yourself a game. For some reason, yeah, I'm missing 2. I do believe they have added some new ones throughout updates. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, the updates would also get you a free game of the month, like in between every update, which was actually like 3 to 4 months, not every month, you would get a new game. But for some reason, the latest update, I can't find that free game, which is weird. Though, one thing that is really cool with every update is, obviously these are still being released, new licensed games, new cartridges coming out every month or so. And because of that, when you do update your console, you can see each and every new cartridge that came out and what games are on it and everything. And it's just really cool to catalog all your games. And as you can see, if I put the cartridge in my console, it will know that I own it and it will put it in my collection. So I really do love this as someone who kind of likes, looking at all the little details, again, with the manuals and everything. It is just super nice. So yeah, there we go. This is the game I was looking at, and I have the cartridge. I can easily insert it. I got the manual and everything, and I don't know, it's just so nostalgic. Like, again, if you're someone who grew up in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, this is just like, yeah, your childhood, but in a modern way. But yeah, in terms of OS, there's not really much to do if you don't have a cartridge installed. It's meant just to play all the physical games you collect. But again, if you do have pre-installed games like I do with the EXP, I can play at least these games without a cartridge. And same goes for every single, edition of the Super Pocket. They're all going to have some pre-installed games depending on the edition you get. But obviously the EXP just has a little bit more going on with its menu and, again, themes and being able to adjust the display and everything, and obviously have the catalog that you can browse through. So altogether, I still think it's pretty nice. It feels a bit more modern, but overall, again, it's supposed to focus on the retro, that being the games. So let's take a closer look at that. Of course, the main reason why you'd even get into collecting these is for this, being able to press in the cartridge and boom, play it like the olden days. There's just something so nostalgic and special about this. While I could get Tomb Raider, 1, 2, and 3 on a Switch, or even get the remastered version, or there's so many other ways to play this game. I don't have to play it like this. Just being able to do this, again, is just a lot more nostalgic and just feels more special. So yeah, sure, a lot of these retro games have probably been re-released on modern hardware, and technically this is modern hardware as well, but again, there's just something unique and special about it. So yeah, let's go ahead and just boot into one of them and kind of see how this console feels. So yeah, just to take a quick look at what we have in terms of buttons. We have obviously the Xbox layout of A, B, X, Y, and then you got kind of like a main menu button, start, select, and then we have an A and B over here. And what's interesting is, yeah, you can turn this into Tate mode. There you go. And play it vertically. Obviously, this is meant for like shoot 'em ups and arcade games that they do sell, not Tomb Raider. So obviously the aspect ratio is a little bit messed up, and I could probably fix it in Tate mode and adjust it a little bit, but it's not going to be practical to play it like this. This is just, you know, an option, which is really cool and kind of lends itself to being more similar to this, but again, with a lot more screen real estate, because some arcade games are meant to be more vertical than horizontal. But let's go ahead and swap back. Let me not forget about the D-pad. I really do like the D-pad on this, especially because, you know, this is mainly supposed to focus on D-pad centric games. It's, you know, all about retro games, right? But as you can see, this game is, you know, being Tomb Raider, it's meant to play in a 3D environment, so having an analog stick would be somewhat beneficial. I think giving us this kind of D-pad gives us the best of both worlds, because essentially it's very reminiscent to, you know, the Sega Genesis D-pad. It gives you a lot more pivot, a lot more just kind of movement than a normal, you know, just forward direction D-pad, and because of that, I feel like it's a lot more friendly for 3D games, especially games, again, like Tomb Raider or Glover, a game I played on the N64. Really cool how they re-released it in this Pico Collection Edition. I had to pick that one up. But okay, we have Tomb Raider booted up. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. And I mean, with it having tank controls, it's not going to be easy to play, but just to check out how it feels and everything, it's definitely worth just kind of jumping in, but I'll make sure to demo each and every single one of these games. This being a PlayStation 1 game, it really shows that, yeah, this console can play all the way up until PlayStation 1 and N64, which really is the, you know, final kind of console you reach for most retro handhelds, unless you have something much stronger that can do GameCube and PS2 and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of like something for $100, you usually can only play up to PlayStation 1 and N64. A good example for that would be this retro handheld. This is an Ambernick that's literally the exact same price of the Evercade EXP. But the only difference is I can pre-install every ROM on it and emulator and play so much more on it, of course. But my point is, it's not really going to play games outside of PS1 and N64, really anything past that, too well. So like in terms of the price, yeah, it's not that bad because you're still going to be able to get the same amount of like hardware capability. But again, this is way more expensive of a hobby because you got to outright buy each and every single game. You're not going to be able to, you know, dump a bunch of ROMs on it. So yeah, here we have Tomb Raider. And again, the tank controls is actually the main issue why I have trouble playing these games. But if anything, it will probably help me play Resident Evil classic games because I really do like playing Resident Evil 2 and 3 on... I don't know if 3 was on the N64, but I do have 2, and I've been meaning to replay that. It would be so dope if Capcom put those games on this, because again, Capcom has licensed games for this console, so maybe one day we'll get that. But yeah, as you can tell, graphically, it looks smooth. It looks like how it was supposed to look like on the PlayStation 1. I really don't see any issues. There aren't really any slowdowns. One thing I do find funny, let's see if we get lucky. I'm gonna pull out the cartridge and it's still playing. Proof that it's not like exactly one-to-one like an FPGA Game Boy type thing where it's literally playing off the cartridge. It clearly downloads or preloads some of the data because, I mean, what's going on? Okay, wait, did it stop? No. I probably can get to the end of this level, and once it needs to load something new, or at least the end of the screen, it will probably glitch. But yeah, either way, it's hilarious that you can actually pop it out and the console won't even notice. Proof that, yeah, it's not one-to-one exactly like the Game Boy technology where you're literally just playing off the cart. This is doing some emulation type business in the background, and I'm okay with it because again, it's mainly about collecting the cartridges and overall the vibe than it being super authentic. Now, while this console is mainly for experiencing these retro games modernly, but again, with a nostalgic twist, they're not just limited to retro games, as, yeah, this game that we kind of showcased briefly when looking through my catalog isn't retro, if you couldn't tell by the artwork, and yeah, it doesn't really look like something that came out back then, but it is a 16-bit game, so it's disguised as a retro game. But if we go ahead and plop it in and boot it up, we can see that this game came out in 2023, so around 3 years ago, which is really cool. It's just proof that, yeah, as long as this game or this console can run these indie games that are based off of retro games, then we have access to even brand new games. So we're not just limited to retro licensed games. We might even be able to play, you know, newer games that are able to, you know, run on a console like this, which is, yeah, just so cool to think about, because again, having a catalog of so many different games that are constantly coming out just makes it exciting to own a console like this, because one day maybe they'll get Sega to license Sonic on it, and I'm gonna buy that in a heartbeat if that's the case. I would love to have a, you know, classic Sonic collection in one of these cartridges. But yeah, before we you know, keep looking at all the games, let's just kind of get through how this console feels, especially in comparison to this one. So yeah, like I said, the D-pad is really nice, and luckily that applies to this one as well. It's a little bit more clicky, but it's meant to have a bit more pivot when moving it around because of this kind of circular thing going on with the D-pad. It just gives you, yeah, more room to kind of move your finger, and again, when it comes to 3D games, it will be very beneficial. It has kind of an inline, you know, L and R kind of trigger and you know, bumper, but luckily this one doesn't. You know, it has proper triggers, which just feels so much better. They are just digital, they're not analog, and everything just feels really clicky, but overall, I mean, it's not that bad. It genuinely feels super good on the hands. Like, again, I don't mind playing on this. Though, I do have some problems. I mean, it's way too small for my hand, so I only really got this from the form factor. And actually, one other thing, which I'll get into later, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing all of this, but it's still a cool idea that I'm gonna have to show. But yeah, again, let's go ahead and just check out the games we do own, which again, yeah, it literally shows 5 carts. Yeah, for some reason I didn't put all of them in. Let's go ahead and plop in one of the ones I'm missing. So here I have the Duke Nukem Trilogy, and if I go ahead and just do that, it should add it to the collection. Let's see. Let's do that. There we go. Yeah, I just added it just by kind of refreshing the page there. And yeah, we can easily boot it up. Let's go ahead and head back to the cartridge part of the menu. And there you go. You can see all 3 games. I'll be honest, never really played Duke Nukem as well, but just being able to get a physical version of these classic games made me want to get it. I don't know how much I'm going to like these games, but I do have the option. And similar to Tomb Raider, I want to say it's not upscaled or anything. It's the native resolution that I believe it was on PC or PlayStation 1. I don't exactly know. I'm having a hard time focusing on the camera. It's so dark. And wait, what the hell is going on? Wait, am I seeing things right? Yeah, okay, this game did not age well. Yeah, I'm honestly seeing this for the first time. I did not expect that kind of intro, but okay. I mean, it was called, what was this game even called? For some reason, oh god, okay. A little bit finicky. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there are some issues. Do I need to blow the cartridge? Maybe that's something I need to do. But yeah, Land of the Babes. That explains that intro there. But okay, let me actually see what happened there. Oh god, okay, wait, what? I took the cartridge out and then I got this. There we go, we're on the title screen. Weird. I mid freaking, like, the game being on, I took it out, blew it real quick, put it back in, and we can keep playing. Yo, that's the beauty. If you don't have to reset your game, you don't have to restart, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to even lose your progress. If the game is getting a little glitchy, just pop it out. I mean, clearly, I don't think that it was designed for that, but I mean, it is hilarious. I'm catching that real time. But okay, yeah, let's go ahead and boot this up and just kind of see how the game plays. I don't know if the loading times are any faster, but it seemed relatively fast. And whoa, okay, giant rats. Oh, this is gruesome. They got guns? And okay, yeah, land of a lot of babes. Oh, God. Okay, here, well, let's just skip this. I'm honestly interested. I'm going to have to give this game a shot. And it has the exact same freaking tank controls. Oh, God. But a third-person shooter, the aiming is going to be abysmal. But it's something. It's working. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe having the button limitation also lends itself into feeling more retro. I don't mind, actually. I feel like I need to give these games a shot on the Pocket to see how different that feels. All right, we're booted up, and I mean, it still feels weird, that's for sure, but it's definitely manageable. If you're used to tank controls, I don't think this D-pad will, you know, do you any disservice. As you can see, like, when I pivot, like, around like this, it's really nice. Like, I really do like the fact that they adopted this Sega-style D-pad, because I thought this is the perfect way to play, again, games in a 3D space. It does the job really well. So, yeah, luckily, it doesn't matter which one you're using, you're still going to have a decent D-pad. This one, again, is a little bit more stiff, and overall, just the ergonomics for this suck in comparison, because, yeah, if you got big, meaty claws like mine, yeah, it's not going to be too comfy. Okay, I just realized something. So, it wasn't actually glitched or anything. When you boot up this game, it actually plays the intro cutscene before then it boots up again to the actual game. So that explains why it was being really weird. Comes out, it wasn't a glitch, it's just that's how you get into the game. But of course, booting out is real seamless. You just hit the menu button, and like before, we can just go to quit, and yeah, just either hop into another game out of the collection or pop in a different cartridge. And the same steps apply for the Super Pocket. We just go ahead and press the menu button, and just like that, we can quit. While this is a lot more dumbed down in terms of a menu, you still have a settings option in which you can mess around with the display and other things. But again, not much in comparison to the EXP and EXPR edition. But yeah, I'll come back to Duke Nukem another time. Again, it's definitely piqued my interest. But let's go ahead and jump into another game, like Glover from this Pico collection. So yeah, some collections can have a lot of games, but to me, some of them feel like shovelware games, so I don't really care for a lot of them. Like this one, again, I purely bought just to play Glover, which, again, is a game I grew up playing on the N64. Not much of, but, you know, I'm nostalgic to it to some degree. Yeah, wow, this looks really nice. Like, anything from the N64 era is so nostalgic to me, and this here is just, yeah, right up there. It reminds me so much of pretty much my childhood, so being able to play something like this is so cool. It kind of makes me wish even Nintendo would license games for this. Like, we'd get Ocarina of Time, or, I mean, Rare with Banjo-Kazooie. I don't know. I would love to see all sorts of retro games have a physical re-release like this. Again, the beauty of this is not the fact that we can play these, because again, there's a million ways to play these, and way better ways to play these. Hell, this will be way cheaper. You'll spend a little bit more for the console itself, but then you can play up until Wii U, and beyond that, and, you know, everything in between. So, yeah, of course, there are much cheaper options. Again, this is all nostalgia bait for the people who like the idea of physical, you know, media, and again, having the actual manual. Because, again, these manuals, I mean, look at that. This is thick. We even got, whoa, a Glover poster. Yo, I'm just realizing this now. Yeah, I miss this era. I miss having stuff like this. I really do. This is so cool. Oh my god. I might actually set this up. Too bad there's so many creases on it. So I never really liked posters that you would get in magazines and stuff because it would be ruined. But yeah, okay, let's go ahead and just kind of mess around real quick and see how this feels. Again, this is another 3D game, but at least it doesn't have tank controls, and it feels so good. Where's my ball? Let's be balling now. Wherever that is. Aha, we got the ball. Now we're rolling. But yeah, no, this feels so good. Like, I don't think there are really any limitations to playing on this. Again, if the game has camera control, that might be an issue. But I mean, they could always map it to other buttons or something. I don't know. I think this is really nice. Let's see how weird this looks in Tate mode. Let me try to play like this. Okay, we dribble and it's working, kinda. I don't know. But yeah, no, I love how seamless you can jump from Tate mode to the original mode. And again, yeah, no, this feels really, really good and looks really nice. But yeah, let's check out a game that can actually be displayed in Tate mode properly. I don't actually own any physical game that has that, but I do believe maybe one of these pre-installed Capcom games could be, but I'm assuming one of these has to be, you know, able to be played in Tate mode, or meant to be, right? Because it looks like a shoot 'em up. So let's check it out. Okay, no, not at all. I mean, let's see how this would look if I do it like this. Yeah, no, this is meant to be widescreen. Okay, the 1942 version actually seems to be meant to be played in Tate mode. Perfect. Oh, look at that. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, this is essentially what it's meant for. And actually, it is really nice. So I still have to press start up here. Insert coin. Okay, there we go. Let's give this a shot. So I'll be honest, it's a little too top heavy. This doesn't feel good, actually. I'm glad it exists, but like, I don't know about this. I don't even know how to continuously shoot. Do I need to hold the button or keep spamming? Okay, I'm destroyed. But I mean, again, it's a pretty cool concept if this is something you like doing. At least, again, you're given the option to do so. But okay, we've taken a good look at a bunch of retro games. Let's actually see how some of these newer games play. So this came out in 2021. Compared to that last game we played, what, 1942? I'm kidding, obviously. The game is just based off of that year. It didn't come out in that year. But yeah, let's give this game a shot and see how it plays. Because yeah, again, it's not just for retro games. It's for indie games that can handle or are based off of the retro experience, and this console can handle it. So yeah, I did start a file on this game. It's very Castlevania-esque. And I mean, yeah, it's beautiful. Like, even pixel art, more modern looking games look amazing. Again, with this being based off of a retro game, it doesn't use the entire screen, but I think in general, games aren't meant to use the entire screen. I think it's just meant for the menu, because technically if this was a widescreen game, it wouldn't work properly on this, right? Or it would have to be letterboxed or something. So everything luckily is meant to efficiently play on the Super Pocket, and yeah, because of that, you get this kind of aspect ratio. Of course, if like for some reason you don't like the aspect ratio, you can be super weird and have it stretched, but like, with this game, it actually doesn't look that bad. So you know what? It depends on the game, but don't be a heathen and put it on all 4x3 games. It's not meant to look that way. But yeah, even on 2D games, the D-pad feels very nice and precise. You know, having this kind of round, circular D-pad, while it is very beneficial for 3D games, it doesn't ruin the experience for 2D games. So overall, yeah, this feels really good. I'm personally, oh god, enjoying it, and I can't necessarily complain about, yeah, really anything outside of, again, it missing like C buttons, but again, this is meant for retro games, not modern. So overall, yeah, feels really nice, premium, may not have the best screen, but for what it's worth, I do like it. Now, the latest cartridge I added to my collection is this one, the Legacy of Kain Collection, and I believe this was also a PlayStation 1 game, so again, you're not really limited to really old games. As you can tell, I wouldn't even buy them, but most of the catalog is meant for arcade games and, you know, just old Atari and other stuff like that. But I'm really glad that, yeah, for me as someone who grew up a little bit later on, I still have my own retro fix that I can pick up. So again, this applies to like both generations, the ones before me and the ones with me because, yeah, again, if you go to the catalog, there are so many arcade and old school Atari games and stuff like that. But again, in between that, there is, I mean, yeah, as you can tell, you can see computer games, console, and arcade. So it's really nice how they even have it separated in different categories. But we also have, yeah, straight up console PlayStation games, so including this, because I do believe, yeah, these games also came out on PS1. Now, there's no way in hell I'm going to play this game in widescreen mode, so let's go ahead and remove that, make it back to the original aspect ratio, but let me try some subtle scan lines, and you know, let's put a bezel on, let's use the EXP one, just see how it looks with the additional stuff we can add. And it's not bad, I'll be honest, I don't like bezels this bright, but it's something to fill in the gaps instead of stretching the screen, and I can't really see the scan lines. Oh, there you go, okay. Sorta, yeah, they're there. I don't really like to emulate a CRT look. Don't get me wrong, I really do love how games are meant to be displayed on CRTs, but let's just try strong and just see how it looks. Yeah, not a fan of that. It just looks too fake and artificial. Some people might like it and feel nostalgic for it, but for me, not so much. So I would prefer just not to use them at all. But in terms of the bezel, we can try something a little bit darker. We got Evercade Origin, wireframe. Wireframe sounds kind of interesting. Okay, yeah, that's much more subtle, and yeah, not too much. It kind of looks nice. It reminds me, if anything, of Nintendo Switch Online games, how they kind of have like a grayish circular pattern. This is instead like squares. It's not bad. But yeah, okay, let's just jump into this. I don't think I could skip this cutscene. Okay, we're in, and we're playing. And once again, it being a 3D game, it feels really good on this D-pad. I could definitely play this. I could totally even play a game like Ocarina of Time with this D-pad, so I wouldn't mind. Because, I mean, this kind of controls like Ocarina of Time. I guess the C buttons, they would have to be mapped to, like, X, Y, and maybe even these, the Tate mode buttons. Again, Nintendo will never license their product to a different, you know, console. That's not how things work. The reason why people buy Nintendo consoles is because of their games, them being exclusive on it. So they're not like Capcom, they're not like Sega, but again, Sega, hopefully that will be an option. But overall, yeah, as you can tell, running natively as it would on the PlayStation 1, everything plays flawlessly. And again, with these being licensed and a little bit more reputable than using, you know, your own ROM and emulation, it should play technically better than it would. But let's be honest, this is a form of emulation. In general, though, it does the job, and I'm sure they would make sure they have a quality check before releasing any of these cartridges to the public and make sure it works perfectly. So you know every game you buy on this will run the way it's supposed to run and feel genuinely as authentic as it should, compared to, like, yeah, you know, running on ROMs and emulators and having that, again, be something that could be slowed down depending on your chipset and whatever. You buy this, you know exactly what you're getting, you know every game you're getting on it is going to work the way it's meant to work. So yeah, altogether, I'm pretty satisfied with this. Obviously, again, I feel like the market for this is people a little bit older than my age and really trying to hone in on arcade games. The only one I have is this one, and as you can tell, I didn't even pop it in. We could do that, but this actually came with the console. It was like bundled together along with the Capcom pre-installed games and everything. Sadly, that bundle and this model just does not exist anymore. But again, you got the EXPR, which overall, I like the color scheme for that one more. I just don't see a point in buying a cheaper version of this when it does the exact same thing. And plus, technically, this is the cheaper version of it, right? So yeah, again, if you want to get into things when it comes to this whole Evercade line of systems, get the Hypertech, you know, Super Pocket. It's technically, obviously, a part of Blaze Entertainment, which are the people who created the Evercade, but, you know, in a different sub-name. I don't really know if this is a subsidiary of Evercade or if this is a completely different company, but yeah, Hyper Megatech are the people behind making these Super Pockets. Overall, both of these can be found on Amazon for the proper retail price, so you're not going to be paying any more because, again, these are modern, these are new, these are coming out now. These are not old consoles, even though I've owned this for like 3-4 years, pretty much since it came out. Again, they have a new revision in which you can buy it for the proper price. Trying to buy this one, probably you're gonna have to pay a, you know, scalper or something, because you're not going to be able to find this from the actual retailers. But again, they have other options, and I in general would recommend this over any other thing, just to kind of get your feet wet with this whole concept. And actually, another reason why I would recommend this over this one is because this one has to be connected to the internet and receives updates, and overall is something you can't really get away with when it comes to modding, because yes, I've actually modded this, believe it or not. So if I turn this off and turn it back on, it's supposed to have this display boot up screen which shows Blaze Entertainment, and then it will show Hyper, Megatech, and everything. But if you pay attention on the bottom part of the screen right here on the right, you're going to see, yes, powered by EverSD. Now, as mentioned earlier, yeah, I wanted to talk about something pretty silly and that defeats the whole purpose of collecting these games physically, but something that you can do on this. I just find so cool, and it's worth mentioning. And overall, I mean, when I first bought this, I really wanted to do that because I really love the idea that, again, the form factor is exactly like a Game Boy Color or, you know, GMG style. And to me, that's pretty cool and nostalgic. Again, I prefer the wide one because I'm all about the Game Boy Advance, but sadly, yeah, and size-wise, it's not pocketable like the Game Boy Advance is, so this was the next best thing in terms of it being pocketable. Because yeah, to do a quick size comparison, at least, you know, when it comes to the EXP and a Switch Lite, which isn't pocketable either, they're about the same size. Hell, the Evercade is a lot thicker. So yeah, this is something I wouldn't want to put in my pocket, but this is totally something you can put in your pocket and not feel too guilty of because it's cheap, and the plastic in itself shouldn't, you know, degrade as easily. It seems pretty high quality for what it is, so I wouldn't worry too much. But yeah, the main reason why I modded this and added something new to it is because of its pocketability and the fact that it has a cartridge slot. And yeah, as you can see, EverSD, this is a 3D printed cartridge that is sold by, you know, the modders known as EverSD. You can go to eversd.com to buy this. Not sponsored or anything. I just think this is a really cool product that I have to mention, because if you go ahead and plop it in, and then we go to the Evercade, you know, cartridge part of the menu, which it should display, you know, whatever game we put inside. We press A. We're going to see, let's let it load up. It probably needs some time. There you go. Yeah, I put Game Boy Advance and Game Boy games on this because, you know, this is like a Game Boy. And yes, I can legitimately play Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on this. So, I mean, it really is the best of both worlds, right? I could play, you know, the actual physical licensed cartridge, you know, authentically, legitly, ethically, but then also I can be a rat, you know, a dirty rat and play ROMs. Which is, I don't know, it's just so cool, right? This is so silly. I legitimately got this far off of this Evercade cartridge. So what you see so far is how much I've actually played on this console alone. So yeah, I was able to get significantly far in the Minish Cap just by playing it off of this. Again, literally throwing it in my pocket, taking it with me, and it plays everything flawlessly, perfectly. Of course it can, because it can play up to PlayStation 1 and N64 pretty damn well. So yeah, obviously it will play Game Boy Advance. And to me, that's just the cherry on top. Again, it defeats the purpose. Just go play an actual, you know, retro handheld. That would make a little bit more sense. You'd get the upscale, you'd get the, you know, OLED, all of that jazz. You know, these are obviously much cheaper and not as premium feeling, but like, that's not the point. This, the whole point of collecting these was to, again, collect things, but you can also do this, so I just feel like I had to show it off. Again, it may defeat the purpose, but I find it cool. But yeah, that about covers it for the Evercade line of handheld systems. Like mentioned before, they do have home console versions in which you can add 2 cartridges at the same time. And yeah, you can pretty much purchase all of these and more on Amazon. I do believe this is a UK-based company, so you're probably gonna have an easier time buying the stuff in the UK. So if you are a viewer from the UK, definitely head up their website if you're interested. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just like reviewing products that I find interesting and cool, and this is definitely one of them. But I'll be real, it's a hobby that is kind of expensive. Like, each one of these games run me about $20, and yeah, that can add up. Of course, I've been collecting these in the past years. Like, this is a collection that I've built in, like, literally 4 years now. So it's not many, but it still can add up. Ever since really the boom of retro handhelds, I've kind of been more obsessed with this, and overall it's a lot cheaper because you just buy the console, but once you buy the console, you're done. You don't have to buy any games. This is a lot different, and again, specifically with the EXP models, you won't be able to get the bonus of adding ROMs if you want to do that. But yeah, what I find just somewhat ironic about this whole idea is I believe like Blaze Entertainment like specifically made this not only for the nostalgia and physical media, but for the fact that these are licensed games, so we can buy them, you know, modernly again, but not have to worry on looking for the retro, second-handed, really expensive, scalped version of these games. But technically, that same issue is happening with these because, yeah, there's a lot of people scalping these. There's not as many in terms of, you know, production to where you can buy them. So a lot of people have a hard time even finding the cartridge they want, and it literally defeats the purpose in eliminating scalpers and eliminating the fact that we have to dig for high-priced retro games. So at least when it first comes out and you buy it immediately, which I have for each one of these you know, editions and games, I paid retail price. I didn't have to pay anything more. But sadly, yeah, they do mark up in price really quickly because I don't think they're as produced as you know, the demand is needed. So overall, I feel like, well, it's meant to solve the problem that, you know, it's really creating the same problem. The problem it's trying to solve, it's creating it, essentially. That's what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, this is, again, not for anyone. I wouldn't recommend it for someone who is just trying to be as budget friendly to themselves as possible. This is literally for those who have an obsession, an addiction, a problem, and really like collect. I mean, I have a problem. That's why I made this channel. This channel is essentially to you know, it's to show off all my stuff and to give me a sort of reason to have this stuff, because yeah, there's really no reason for me to have this if I have something like this, right? But I like collecting, so yeah, I'm sure those watching also can relate. Let me know what you guys think, if you do have one, how you would want to play it, if this does interest you. Any and all opinions down below in the comments. I read them all, I respond to them all, so for real, let me know. I enjoy doing this so much. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on this video to show your support. Let me know what else you'd like to hear me talk about. But anyways, that does it for this episode of TriforceTech. I've been Luke, and I'll see you all in the next one.